discipline is actually the pathway to the highest level of personal freedom and personal power. Real discipline is self-respect. Real discipline gives me a level of freedom mentally, emotionally, physically, financially that I was not able to attain when I was in my rebellious freedom era. So true discipline actually gives me more freedom in every area of my life than I could have ever imagined when I was rebellious against discipline.
Welcome to the She Who Dares podcast. I'm your host, Krystal Wilson, the founder of She Who Dares. I'm a specialized breakthrough and mindset coach, business mentor, online course creator, and your number one no BS hype woman. I'm here to remind you who the fuck you are and reignite your personal power through powerful and expanding conversations on all things business, mindset, and energetics, to help you break through to your next level of success in all areas of your life, business, and bank account. Each episode is designed to expand your mind, shift your identity, raise your frequency, as well as give you success strategies to help you step into your highest, most powerful, abundant, successful, and magnetic you. So, I dare you to join me each episode, and I double dare you to implement what you learn and go all in on you. All in on your life, your business, your success. Because if you do, like so many of my She Who Dares clients and students, you will become everything that you know deep down you can be. Ready? Let's friggin' do this.
Welcome back to the She Who Dares podcast. I'm your host, Krystal Wilson. Welcome, gather round. Let's get into it. So today I really wanted to talk to you guys about discipline. And I want to share a little bit about my own relationship with discipline and how that's kind of transformed over the last few years. And I'm going to share with you the 7 She Who Dares principles of discipline. And my intention for this episode, for all of you that listen, is to help you to really maybe redefine or even define your relationship with discipline. Because I know for me personally, when I reflect back on the last 15 years of my life, my whole life as a 41-year-old woman, I've had a very rebellious relationship with discipline. I would say that discipline is something innately within me that I have rebelled against. And when I reflect on why I've had such a difficult relationship or rebelled against discipline, where I come to is that one of my highest personal values has been freedom. Freedom to do what I want, when I want, how I want it, and not allow anybody to hold me back from doing what I want to do in life, in business, in all the areas. And that kind of rebellious way of living, I mean, it's just so fundamentally who I am. It's why I live my life the way that I live my life. It's why I built the business that I built. I find a lot of personal power in being free to do what I want, when I want, and how I want. And so I think for a really long time, very much so in like childhood, adolescent, and young adulthood, discipline felt like a direct attack against my freedom. This is before I know what I know now, right? So we only know what we know. And so for me, throughout those childhood years, those young adulthood years, up until around kind of 10, 15 years ago, I rebelled against discipline. I saw discipline as a direct conflict to my highest value, which is freedom. And it's so interesting because now I know so much more. Now I hold so much more wisdom. And now I really am able to understand what discipline is. And the truth is, what I've come to learn and, worked to embody is that discipline is actually the pathway to the highest level of personal freedom and personal power. Real discipline is self respect. Real discipline gives me a level of freedom mentally, emotionally, physically, financially that I was not able to attain when I was in my rebellious freedom era. So, true discipline actually gives me more freedom in every area of my life than I could have ever imagined when I was rebellious against discipline. Being disciplined has helped me to heal my relationship with myself, build a level of self respect that I never knew was possible for me, unlock a level of personal power, and ultimately completely transformed my relationship with myself and healed my relationship with myself, which has also led to like true self love. Often people speak about discipline really being self love. And when you really respect yourself and you hold yourself to a higher standard, you're able to love yourself at a level that is just not attainable when you lack self respect, when you lack discipline, when you are not holding yourself to those higher standards. I want to give you that context because my relationship with discipline, I mean, the word discipline used to like literally, I used to shudder, like, yuck, ick, give me the ick. Like I hated it. I wanted nothing to do with discipline until I walked this path and did this work. And my own wisdom and understanding grew. And I think as well, when I thought of the word discipline, and you might relate to this, is that I didn't really know or understand my own definition of discipline. I think that as a young woman in my teenage and young adolescent and adulthood, I really saw discipline as something that was extreme. I saw discipline as something that was rigid, extreme, that discipline meant like no matter what, all the time. There was no room for like flow and continuity, and that discipline meant like training extremely at the gym, eating extremely, and just a really someone who was disciplined was living an extreme life. And that's just not who I am. I mean, I live an extreme life that's in alignment with my values and my morals and what's important to me. But I feel for a long time, I didn't really understand discipline, and I allowed other people's definition of discipline based on their values define what that meant for me. And so over the years, what I have come to understand and teach and do and be and have is that we get to decide what discipline means for us based on our goals, our values, our standards, where we're going, who we want to be. And if we're looking outside of ourselves and allowing other people's versions of discipline to define ours, it can feel misaligned. That doesn't quite fit for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not somebody who's extreme in my fitness. And so for a long time, I correlated discipline with extreme fitness, with extreme eating. And I rebelled against that. I didn't want that. That's not what's important to me. I believe in health. I believe in wellness, but I don't really believe in the extremes of those things. I don't really believe in the extremes of anything except for like mindset, personal development, energetics, limiting beliefs, like all of the stuff that I teach, because that's in alignment with my values and who I am. And so when I started to really like unpack my relationship with discipline, the first thing that I looked at is, what does discipline mean to me? And how can I define that for myself based on my goals, my vision, and what I want to create? And the first thing that had to go is I had to dismantle this kind of belief that I had that discipline meant I had to be extreme. And if you're one of my clients or you've been in my world a long time, I don't believe in extremes. I don't believe in like hardcore black and whites. There has to be context and nuance, and there has to be a flow and a continuity. And I very much believe that like my best today and my best tomorrow can look and feel very differently. And if I'm only celebrating myself when I'm doing everything at the extreme highest version of myself, what about all the other times that I'm not quite that version of myself? So I very much like what I believe and what I teach is that like your best today and your best tomorrow can look and feel different. And you're not less than on the days that you don't run 10K and the days that you just binge your favorite TV show. I just don't believe in that rhetoric and I don't teach that. I want you to figure out what the flow and continuity for your life so that you can be your higher self. And I never want anyone to think when they follow me or enter my world that I am extreme. You know what I mean? That's why I share the context, the nuances that like sometimes I binge Bravo and that is what I want to do and that feels really good. And then sometimes I am working out twice a day. It's never an extreme thing. It's just what feels good, what's going to expand me, what's going to support me, and what's going to expand and support me. And what's going to expand and support me can look and feel very different day to day, week to week, month to month. And that's really what I had to define is what does discipline mean to me? And how can I create discipline so that I can actually have more freedom? And that was the biggest thing for me is like someone who had rebelled against discipline so much. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me when to do it. Don't tell me how to do it. I was very rebellious, very defensive in my younger years. And I just didn't want responsibility and I didn't want discipline. And I thought that was like the thing that was going to take away my freedom. But absolutely what I've learned is the more that I can define what discipline means to me, the more that I hold myself to those standards, the more freedom that I have. And I love that because freedom is still my highest value. And so when I reflect on just having worked with hundreds of women, my own journey and relationship with discipline, and just my business, my brand, She Who Dares, what I've learned is my version of discipline, her version of discipline, and your version of discipline can look very different. And it's just more important that you figure out what works for you and the standard in which you want to hold yourself to. And discipline isn't a one size fits all. Some people, their discipline is working out every day, twice a day, no matter what, rain, hail, shine. That's not my discipline. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't align with my values, who I am, what I'm doing. I like a bit more continuity when it comes to those things. And so what I've discovered when I was on this journey of figuring out my own definition of discipline and like how I wanted to implement this into my life, I really came up with 7 principles of discipline that I believe are the core basic principles that we absolutely want to master and embody so that we can bring discipline into our lives so that we are moving in the direction that we want to go. We are connected to the highest version of ourselves and we have a high standard of living for ourselves. And so I want to share these 7 principles with you today. And some of them you might be like, I'm already doing that. That's amazing. Some of them might be new concepts that you haven't really heard of or thought of before. And you might already know all of these things. But what I want to say to you is this, and this comes up a lot in my work, and I have this conversation a lot with clients and women in my world, is that knowing something and embodying something, 2 very different things. A lot of women enter my world and say, yeah, I already know that. And it's, yeah, I know you know it because you're smart, you're intelligent. But knowing something and actually being the embodiment of the thing you know, very fucking different. And so, even if you know these things, I want to invite you to ask your ego to step aside and ask your all knowing mind to step aside. And I want you to really look at, am I embodying these? Because knowing it and embodying these 7 principles is the difference between where you are and where you want to go. So let's have a look at them. So the number one thing, right, when I look at discipline and I look at the work that I do, the number one thing that I had to work on, like that was the foundation of all other principles when it came to discipline, my relationship with myself, where I wanted to go, was 100% keeping my promises to myself. This one is easy to say, not as easy to embody. It's a journey to go on. And I think that it was such a big thing for me. I literally set goals, wrote to-do lists, said I was going to do this, said I was going to do that. And I just more often than not used to very much embody the type of woman whose word meant jack shit to myself. I would say I was going to do things for myself that were in alignment with where I wanted to go, but I would break those promises more often than not. And when we are unable to keep our own promises to ourselves, fundamentally, it is so detrimental to our self-belief, our self-trust, our relationship with ourselves. So number one is 100% keeping your promises to yourself. If you say you're going to do it, do it. Now, I know you probably have this down packed for everyone else in your life. When you tell your friend you're going to do it, you do it. When you tell work you're going to do it, you do it. When you say you're going to do it for your business, you do it. But how often do you say you're going to do X, Y, Z for you and you don't do it? And for those of you who have businesses, you actually might find that this shows up in your business as well. You say you're going to launch that thing. You say you're going to get on stories and sell today. You say you're going to do the thing in your business, but you don't do it. And something that I truly believe, and I teach in more of my business mentorship work, is you are the foundation of your business. If your relationship with yourself is not fucking solid AF, as in you're a woman who keeps your promises to yourself, you have a strong mindset, strong energetics, strong discipline, all of the foundational things, which is a whole other podcast. But if you're trying to build a business on a foundation that is unstable because you're not holding yourself to the standard, you don't really believe in yourself, you're up against your self-sabotage, then you are building an unstable business. And then the same thing applies to the women who are listening who maybe you don't have a business. Because again, the same thing, you are the foundation of everything you do in your life. So if your relationship with yourself is not fucking solid, then it's going to be really difficult to build a solid life in all different areas of life where that's showing up for you. So number one is really big. Keep your fucking promises to yourself. Now, for most of you, you might feel like, yeah, it's cool. I've got that. Monitor it. Look at it this week. Monitor it this next month. Where are you saying you are going to do something and you don't do it for yourself? Okay, number two is showing up for yourself when no one is watching. This discipline is really about, like, you're not going to feel motivated. In fact, I want you to let go of the idea that you have to feel good and feel motivated to do something. Let go of that. It's going to trip you up because motivation, more often than not, will leave the building. And then if you can't do what you say you were going to do, show up how you want to show up and keep your promises to yourself, you're just not going to do it. You're always waiting to feel good, to feel motivated. So principle number two, when it comes to building a solid foundation around discipline, defining what discipline means to you, is showing up for yourself when no one is watching. And so if you look at point one and point two, number one, keeping your promises to yourself. Point two, showing up for you when no one is watching. The fundamental of both of these is your fucking relationship with yourself. And this is why everything I teach, even if I'm teaching you about money, even if I'm teaching you breakthrough work, even if I'm doing business mentorship, coaching, and strategy with you, it all comes back to your relationship with yourself, which is the foundation of everything you be, do, and have and create in your life. Number three, this is so big. Like, let's just take a minute. Making decisions from your future self and not the version of you that you are now, or not your fear. So making decisions from where you want to be, who you want to be, what you want to create, not where you are right now. Not allowing your fear your current limitations, your current fear, your current uncertainty, your current lack of belief, your current capacity allow you to make a decision to not do the thing that's actually going to catapult you forward. This is so big. I honestly, like, I have this really unique position where I connect with so many women. I've done hundreds of one-on-one breakthroughs with women. I've worked with numerous business coaching clients and mentorship, and I've had hundreds of women do various courses, masterclasses, programs that I have ran over my last 5 years since creating She Who Dares. And so I have this really unique perspective and opportunity where I get to connect with so many women. And I would say this is, like, honestly one of the biggest things. They're all big, but if you can't get out of your own fucking way and stop allowing your current "I'm tired" money situation, fear, uncertainty, your current circumstances hold you back from making decisions that are actually going to move the needle in your life, your business, your relationship with yourself. If you can't get past this hurdle, that is categorically going to keep you stuck exactly where you are. It's categorically stunting your growth when you make decisions based on where you are and not where you want to be, who you want to be, what you want to create. The woman that you're becoming, who keeps her promises to herself, who shows up for herself when no one's watching, who makes decisions based on where she wants to go, not where she is currently, she is a woman who's leading her life, leading her fucking life. She is unstoppable. Nothing and no one can get in the way and hold her back. Now, you may not fully be that version of yourself. Like, you may not yet fully have integrated and embodied that version of yourself. But if you have a desire to be that version of yourself, then I hope you're taking notes. Number 4, big one, taking radical responsibility for your life. The woman who takes radical responsibility for her life, her results, what she doesn't have, is a woman who is going to fucking change her life. Because when we take responsibility, which isn't easy to do, especially if you're stuck in your victimhood. And as an Oscar award-winning victim, as I've mentioned before, I used to play the award-winning role of the greatest victim of all time. I honestly used to get and blaming mixed up, and they are two completely different energies. When you beat yourself up and beat yourself down, you are in victimhood, you are in blaming energy, and all that does is further pound you down into victimhood, into blaming, into complaining. Whereas taking responsibility for your life is setting you free. It's freedom, because you are no longer outsourcing your power. You're no longer saying, this happened to me, I have no control of it. This person did this, and that's why my life's like this. Taking radical responsibility gives you so much freedom, and it is discipline. And it will be the number one thing that draws all your power back to you when you take responsibility for it all. Your relationships in the toilet, take responsibility. Even if he's a narcissistic dickhead, take responsibility for the role that you have played. Work's not going the way you want it. What role have you played in that? Take responsibility for it. Business not making the money that you want to make, you can play the victim and say, oh my God, everyone else gets to have so much more success than me. Let's have a real hard look at it. Pull a seat up to the mirror, face your bullshit. Where do you need to take responsibility? Where are you holding yourself back? Where are you not willing to do the deep work to have breakthroughs? Take responsibility for it all. It'll be the greatest gift you ever give yourself. And I know it feels scary. Like, I know it feels that if I take responsibility for, I have to hold all of it. But this is where you're getting it wrong. You're getting blame and responsibility mixed up. Blaming yourself, beating yourself up, beating yourself down is you holding all of it. And when you hold it, it gets heavier and heavier. And when you're holding really fucking heavy shit that you're beating yourself up for, that you're beating yourself down for, it literally makes you unable to move. You're not able to progress. You're not able to move forward. You're not able to become who you want to become because you're holding all this heavy shit, beating yourself up for holding it. And when you take responsibility, all that shit, that heaviness that's holding you back energetically, emotionally, stunting your growth, it's you releasing it. It's you energetically letting it go. It no longer has power over you because you've decided that you're in control of it. That is taking radical responsibility. Number 5, honoring your boundaries. And here's the thing about boundaries. I probably got a little bit of a different perspective. Honestly, so many people like talk about their boundaries on the internet. But are you doing that for you? I can see a lot of like victimhood when people speak about boundaries because it's like, again, they're blaming somebody else versus taking radical responsibility. So when I talk about boundaries, I'm talking about your own boundaries with yourself. If you can't master your own boundaries, if you can't keep your own promises to yourself, if you keep betraying yourself, if you keep abandoning yourself, if you keep pushing up against what you say you don't want and you keep doing it, you are breaking your own boundaries to yourself. And to be honest with you, it doesn't matter about any other fucking boundary that somebody else is not keeping. Why would they, when energetically you can't even keep your own fucking boundaries to yourself? Everything starts and begins and ends with you. How you see yourself, your identity, your self-concept, your relationship with yourself. And so a lot of the rhetoric that I see out on the internet, people like sharing stuff about boundaries, it's never about them. It's always in this like victimhood, blaming somebody else, like they're the victim because this person doesn't hold their boundary. But it's like, let's really look at this. Are you holding your own boundaries for yourself? Because it starts and ends and begins with you. All of it, all the time, period, full fucking stop. And number 6, creating consistency, not chaos. And this is where that extreme part comes in. Like when you decide you want to do something for yourself, this is the cycle that I see play out for a lot of women. They're like, I want to change my life. And so I'm going to start getting up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to start going to the gym every day, Monday through Friday. And I'm cutting out all carbs, all sugar. I'm going to read every night, no more TV. And you like get this burst of energy to like change your life. And you look at these basic foundational things like what you eat, what you consume, your sleep, your movement, which is good things to look at. These are the foundations. But you set these extreme goals that unconsciously you are not yet the version of yourself that can hold that. And so unconsciously you set these extreme goals that you're never going to be able to actually hold yourself to right now based on who you are and your standard of living and your current level of discipline. And then you fail. And then you use that failure as evidence against yourself to cement yourself further into your victimhood. I can't do it. I'm a failure. I can't keep my promises to myself. Blah, 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 blah. When I speak about this in this way, in this tone, I want you to know this was me. So I don't want you to listen and feel like the way I speak about this or like my comedy around it or my kind of mocking, sarcastic energy. Honestly, I'm speaking to myself. I often say I was my hardest client. Like when I speak in this way and this passion is because like for those of you who follow me now, listen to this podcast, follow me on social media, it honestly means nothing if you don't know where I've come from, who I used to be. I am a completely different version of myself. Now, the fundamentals of Krystal Wilson are absolutely there. Like my personality is the same, but my mindset, my energetics, my perception, like how I show up for myself, how I live my life, my standard of living, I have had to transform all of that. And I've transformed it based on not having a model of that. Everyone in my life was living that same standard. And I broke away from that and had to rebuild myself from the ashes up, from the phoenix rises. So I speak about it in this way because I'm like almost speaking to like my old self. It's my personality to like, I love banter. I love, that kind of like sarcastic energy, that comedic value. That's just kind of who I am. So I do it in this way, but I don't ever want you as the listener to take that in an attacking way. It's definitely not my intention. It's just what I needed like 15, 20 years ago was somebody to sit me down and give me some hard truths like this in this kind of funny, light, but also really truthful way. So we want to create consistency, not chaos. So you don't need to do more. Like often when we think about discipline or we think about changing our lives, it's like more, more, more. And we go too hard, too soon, too fast before we've actually stepped into the identity of the version of us who can hold that, who can do that, who can be that. So it doesn't really matter about adding more in. It's about doing what matters on repeat. And a couple episodes back, I spoke about this on the mid-year reset. I spoke about some of the things that I was resetting, and they were all very much foundational things like sleep, what I consume, eating, movement. If you haven't listened to that episode, definitely go back, because that's what this point 6 means, creating consistency, not chaos. So rather than trying to change every area of your life overnight, like habit stack, build the version of you slowly who can actually hold the standard of living that you want to hold. But more often than not, women go way too soon, way too fast, trying to do all the things when they're not actually doing deep identity work. They're not doing subconscious reprogram. They're definitely not doing breakthrough work with me, but they're setting a standard of living that's just way too high for where they're at. And it's like, give yourself a little bit more compassion and understanding and grace. Like, honestly, all of you listening, if you take one thing away from this episode, it's like, how can you give yourself a little bit more grace? Because you're so fucking hard on yourself. And like, at what point are you going to realize that current strategy of beating yourself up and beating yourself down and being hard on yourself isn't actually working? It's in direct conflict with you actually doing what I want you to do, which is be compassionate and understanding and have love for yourself. The version of you who has compassion and understanding and love for herself will able to embody these 7 principles with so much more ease and grace, because you're doing it from the right energy. It's not what you do, it's the energy in which you do it. Which brings me to number 7, our final discipline principle is follow the plan, not your mood. I mean, I could honestly do a whole podcast episode on just this point. Follow the plan. When you make a plan that is actually achievable for you, one step in front of the other, bit by bit, day by day, habit by habit. We're habit stacking. We're not trying to change every area of your life in 1 week. So I'm going to give you an example. So often, especially with my business mentor clients, we set goals. We do quarterly planning, quarterly reviews. We look at numbers. We look at all the infrastructure of their business. And so often I go, what's your goal? And let's just say my client wants to launch a course. And I will say, as part of our planning and creating the vision for that, is like, how many people do you want to enroll? And they might go 25. And I go, cool. Now, my next question is, and you can apply this to any area of your life. I said, okay, so tell me right now, do you believe 100% with every cell of your body that you can achieve 25 signups in your course in the next 2 weeks? And almost every time that I ask them that question, they say, no, I don't. And I said, well, that's the wrong goal then. Because this is the strategy that you currently run in your life, where you set goals that you don't have the internal infrastructure where you actually believe that you can achieve it. And guess what happens? You self-sabotage, you don't achieve it. And then you use that as more evidence as to you not being able to do the thing you want to do, that you're a failure or whatever, negative, limiting story you tell yourself about yourself. So the same thing applies to any area of your life. If you set a goal, I want you then to check in, hold yourself, check in with your gut and ask yourself, do I really believe right now, based on my current mindset, energy, beliefs, do I believe that I can achieve this goal? And if it's not a whole yes in your body, then I want you to be smart and kind and loving and compassionate to yourself. And I want you to then go, okay, what is a goal that I can actually get my energy behind? What is a goal that I could set for myself that I can actually achieve? And that I know it's a no-brainer, easy peasy. Because what we want to do is we want to build your believability scale within you. So if you're setting goals that are way out of what you currently believe you're capable of, then you are setting yourself up to fail. Whereas if you go, okay, my big goal was 25, but honestly, I really feel like I can definitely 100% get 3 women. Like I could absolutely have 3 signups. Then I want you to actually set that goal, because you know what? You believe you can achieve it. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to get the 3 women. And then guess what's going to happen? You've just fucking created evidence. You have just become all the evidence that you ever needed to know that you can achieve your goal. And then the next goal, we're going to stretch you a little bit and stretch you a little bit and stretch you a little bit. And we're going to build, as we do that, your believability scale. So often than not, you can't follow the plan because you are allowing your emotions and mood to talk you out of the plan, because the plan that you set in the first place, that you had no believability, you had no internal infrastructure that you would actually be able to achieve that. And so you are setting yourself up to fail before you've even started. So we follow the plan, not the mood, but you make sure, there's a little caveat to that. Make sure your plan is something that you 100% believe you can do. So I just go back to exercise, because I feel like that's been my relationship with exercise, and especially discipline. Like I feel like I've had a direct correlation between those two things and it needing to be extreme. And so discipline is not about extremes. It's about figuring out what you can do for you, so that every day you're building you up, you're getting better, you're moving in the direction that you want to go. So point 7, follow the plan, not the mood. But the caveat is make sure the plan is something that you actually believe you can do. So rather than saying every morning at 5 a.m., I'm going to get up, I'm going to do weights, I'm going to go for a run, things that you have never done consistently, you are setting yourself up to fail. So maybe it's, you know what, I actually really enjoy walking. That's me. I love Pilates. I love walking. I love swimming. But when I am out of alignment and I'm watching other people be disciplined, I can get off course, because I'd be like, oh, discipline means I have to be extreme and I have to lift weights every day. That's just not for me. And that is okay. So you've got to figure out what it means to you. So set a plan, stick to that plan, and you'll be able to do that. And you won't allow your emotions and mood to derail you off your plan when you actually set goals that are attainable, where you believe you can set them. And for a lot of you listening, you've got to start smaller than where you're at. I don't know how many times I speak to women in business, especially my business mentor clients. This changes very quick once they're in my world, because we start to set goals that they can achieve. And then that builds their belief, that gives them the evidence that they can do it. And then they can achieve their really big, scary, hairy goals. But so often it's like when I ask somebody, like, okay, how much money do you want to make next month in your business? They go $20,000 and they've not even cracked 5K yet. It's cool. Love that goal for you. Like, love it. But do you believe right now that you can achieve it? If that is a no, then that is the wrong goal for you, because you will self-sabotage yourself. Instead of following the plan, you're going to allow your mood, emotion, your limiting beliefs, your doubt to overtake the plan, and you won't follow through. And then you'll use that as evidence to say, see, I'm a failure. I can't do it. I'm just not good enough. And it's just a fucking bold-faced lie. You know, your inner mean girl, she is cunning. Don't let her get away with this bullshit. So these are the 7 She Who Dares principles that will help you to begin to build your relationship with discipline and define what discipline means to you. But if you can start to work on these 7 principles, this is going to build an incredible foundation for you to really up the ante, because discipline equals self-respect. Discipline equals self-love. And discipline equals my favorite thing, which is freedom. I love you guys. I hope you've taken something amazing and powerful away from this episode, and I will see you next week.
Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode. If you loved this episode, be sure to share that with me by leaving me a review, and head over to the She Who Dares official Instagram account at She Who Dares Official, hit follow, slide into my DMs, and share with me the impact this episode has had on you. And before you go, I'm going to leave you with this. The universe is responding to you. It is following your lead. You are the one who has to move first. And when you do, the whole universe will move with you, because it's I lead, the universe follows. When I move, the universe moves with me. That is our official She Who Dares mantra. I want you to write it down, put it on a mirror, and I want you to remind yourself of it every day. When I lead, the universe follows. When I move, the universe moves with me. When you follow this She Who Dares mantra, you are going to unlock the magic of the universe, and you are stepping into your most powerful self. I can't wait to see you for the next episode. Thanks for being here.